Hi, my name is Alahnnaa Campbell, and my company is You Have a Life Plan, where I support people to live life with grace and ease. And today I'm going to talk to you about the emotional system seen through the lens of human design. So who am I? I'm a soul contract and human design specialist. I have a master's in psychology, and I'm the mother of an intense 5-year-old boy and a sensitive 2-year-old girl. And just to give you a very brief background on the modalities I use. So soul contract is basically your plan for this life. It's your personal law of attraction. It's the challenges you wanted to overcome. It's the talents you want to have on board. It's the goals you want to strive for. And it's what your life was meant to be all about. And when your soul contract is revealed to you, all of the experience you have in life will make sense to you. All the challenges that come at you will make sense to you. And you'll be able to really drop the drama of talking about all these things that keep happening to you and just go, right, I'm getting this kind of challenge and this is why, and this is what I need to do to step over it so that you can really move forward in life and really, move through life with grace and ease. So that's soul contract. And then the second component is human design. So once you actually choose your soul contract before birth, and once you've selected your soul contract, you get to choose your human design. And what your human design is, it's your energetic vehicle that you felt was best suited for you to complete your mission, your soul contract in this life. So in human design, every design will have certain strengths and certain vulnerabilities and unique strategies for success. And so what I do for my clients is I basically show them what their soul contract is, what their human design is, and give them strategies to work through whatever they're going through at that time in order to live life with grace and ease and really thrive as a family and understand what's going on with every member of your family. So with human design, it's important to know that it's never personal. It's just about, somebody is not hurting you on purpose or affecting you or bothering you on purpose. It's just knowing how are they built, how am I built, and how do we work with what we've got. So today I'm going to talk about the emotional system through human design, because I think emotions are something that get out of hand really fast. So I just want to show you how simple emotions can actually be. And before I get into it, I want you to always keep this in mind. What I'm saying in this presentation is seen through the lens of human design. This is the usual path, but there's always exceptions to rules. There's always other influences. And I want you to always trust your own feelings, your own instincts. You can play with what I share and see if it fits your experience, but if it doesn't feel right, I'm asking you to please never take my word over your own, because what you know, feel, and believe is true. You are the most knowledgeable person in your life. So this is my human design, and I'm not going to give you a lot of background on it, but basically these are different centers, and whatever's colored in is uniquely and always reliably me, and whatever is not colored in is where I take in the world. So here, this center here is the emotional system. So on me, my emotional system is completely opened. It's not colored in. So when an emotional system is not colored in, that means that this person, so me in this case, feels other people's emotions 10 times. And people with this kind of configuration may avoid confrontation, may avoid speaking their truth at all costs, because they really don't want to feel that other person's anger, disappointment, frustration, because they're feeling it, 10 times. So it's really important for them to know that what they feel and they think is the other person's anger is actually 10 times their anger. So they can kind of gauge that, okay, I feel it really badly, but they don't feel it as badly as I do. And they may also avoid really happy people. Like some kids, they have open emotional systems and their parents are so proud of them, and they're just wanting space from these proud parents, because it's just overwhelming. Any emotion can be overwhelming when you have an open emotional system. And the one thing to know is, if you do have an open emotional system, you have the benefit that if you get away from people, if you're on your own, you can actually dump other people's emotions. You can get over it. So, when we tell people, oh, get over it, and some people can and some people can't. So people with open emotional systems, they can walk away, let that energy empty out. If they don't attach to it, if they know it's not theirs, they can just dump it and get over it. So they need to know that these emotions are not theirs. It's information so that they can be wise and know what is needed in the situation. So when I walk into my house, I can gauge the emotions of everybody in my house. I know who needs what. I can be there. I can communicate between them about, so-and-so's feeling this and this, and then I can get out. I don't need to keep feeling those emotions. I don't need to feel their anger, their anxiety, their sadness, their stress magnified 10 times. So it's self-care to know this is a vulnerable place on me. I can use it for the wisdom, and then I can remove myself to take care of myself. And it's the same with all the centers, but today I'm just talking about the emotional system. So Another thing about the open emotional system, and just so you know, about 50% of people have an open system not colored in, and 50% will have it colored in. So people who have it not colored in, if they're like me and they have no lines coming off of it, they in essence don't have any exaggerated fear when it comes to emotion. But if they have a line coming off of it, you can probably pinpoint what kind of fears they have. So this is great to know about like your kids, because then when they're feeling a certain way, you can really address the issue directly. So if you look here, there's a number on each of these lines. So if like there was a line coming off of 6, then you could look here on 6 and see what it means, or a line coming off 36, you could look up 36. So I'm just going to go through each of them for you. If somebody has like several lines, or even if they have one, they may not feel this fear, and that's fine and that's healthy. But it's always a place to go to. You know, if they're feeling a fear of some sort, you can say, is this a fear of whatever their line might be? And then you can really address it quickly. So here, I'll just start at the beginning. So 37, if they have a line coming off 37, this means they could have a fear of taking on traditional roles. And this can mean different things to everybody, so I don't want to elaborate too much on it, but you could address somebody with something like this and go, are you afraid that you're going to have to take on some traditional roles? Is that what's going on here? If it's off of 6, it could be a fear of trusting other people or opening up to other people or getting intimate. If it's a fear of 49, it could be a fear of rejection or a fear of consequences of their actions. Off of 22, it could be a fear that no one's going to listen to you, or a fear that there's just going to be silence. If it's off of 55, it could be a fear of emptiness or not having anything to be passionate about. If it's off of 36, it could be a fear of inadequacy. And if it's off 30, it could be a fear of the fates, which is kind of like what might or might not happen. So it's just good to kind of know like what kind of fears could creep up in someone, like one of your children or your spouse or yourself. And if they do creep up, you just can say to yourself, yep, this is how I'm designed. I'm designed to have this fear come up sometimes, and kind of move beyond it. You know, if you have a fear of rejection and that fear comes up, you could say, yes, that's in my design, and I can move beyond that. I can go forward. And if you have multiple, you could have multiple fears. So the opposite is a defined system. So here this is a emotional system that's colored in. So when it's colored in, there will always be a line that connects it to another center. And based on the numbering around that line, so in this case, the 3955, it'll tell you something about how those emotions happen. So somebody who has an emotional system that is colored in, they cannot snap out of it. You can't just say, oh, get over it, you know, just walk away and get over it. They have to process their emotions. And, you know, emotions have to move. It's motion of feelings that move through. And it can be very handy, especially if you use it to make your decisions, which I'll talk about maybe in another presentation. But the best you can do is just notice that it's happening. Your emotions are starting to move, and I'll talk about each emotional wave in the next slide. And to take this as a sign is, okay, I need to be by myself. I know how to take care of myself. It may be a time to go create. It may be a time I'm trying to experiment with something called emotional freedom tapping, which is kind of like tapping different parts of your body and saying certain things to get the emotions to move. Not necessarily for me, but mostly for my kids who have emotional waves, to get them to just move that emotion through their body. Nobody needs to blame or anything like that. It's just, okay, the emotions are set in motion, so let's move them through. And then in future, you can be aware of what's going to trigger you to get into this emotional wave, and what can you do to avoid it if possible. And it's not going to be possible all the time, but if you're aware, then you can use this knowledge to your advantage. So here are the emotional systems. As I said, it depends on what line connects this center to any other center. So if they have the 59, 6, so they would have a line here between 59 and 6. These people are really good at breaking down barriers in intimacy. People will often drop their emotional barriers and just open up to them. And this doesn't sound like an emotional wave, but this is kind of how it's defined. I think it can also play out kind of like the next two waves, the 37, 40. So consider both. Consider that if you have the 59-6, that people are really going to drop their barriers and open up to you, but also you may feel emotions kind of like this next one, the 37-40. So the 37-40, these are people who things happen to them and they can just sweep it on their rug. They seem to say nothing, seems like it doesn't bother them, but you can see it's building. And then finally it's like, that's the final straw, and they explode. So this is my son. And yeah, you know, when he reaches that explosion point, like it's just explosive. And so what he needs to learn to do, and what I need to learn to do as his parent, because he's only 5, is to sort of address the issues as it comes up, to see, okay, he's starting to build with frustration. And before he blows up, start to address them so you can try to lower it down. You can also use touch, because touch is really good to diffuse this kind of energy. So you can give them a hug, you can have them sit on your lap if they're little, you could put your arm on their shoulder, you could pat their leg or their back, you could say, do you want a hug? Do you want to hold my hand? Like that can be really helpful to prevent the complete blow up. The other thing is if you hit the blow up point, sometimes I just, you know, there's no reasoning. So it's just like, I just give my son something to hold. He likes to hold like a bottle of something or whatever, just something in his hands to hold. And it just allows the energy to diffuse. There's no reasoning at that time. And then once he's over it, we can kind of talk about, you know, what really happened there and what was going on. So that's how you treat this kind of emotional wave, which is the 3740 here. But like I said, this 59-6 could also behave this way. So the next one here is the 1949. So this one also behaves like the 3740, except these people are really, really sensitive. They feel everybody's everything. So I feel like it's kind of like having that 3740, that, you know, sweeping under the rug and everything, and they eventually blow up. Plus, it's like having this being open. So you're feeling other people's emotions. So these people are really sensitive. And it's good to be aware if you have somebody like this in your family, because, you know, our emotions affect each other. So if you have an open emotional system and you have somebody with this very sensitive wave, you're going to feel they're hypersensitive 10 times. And then if you have 2 people who have 2 open centers, you know, you can pass back that amplified emotion. So it's just really good to be aware of, like, what are you dealing with when you're passing around emotional energy? And then the next 2, so the 4130, which is this bottom one here, or the 3635, which is this top one here. This one, my daughter's like this. She's 2, and these are people who really get their hopes up. They see the world as being wonderful. Everything's going to be wonderful. And when even the slightest thing doesn't turn out, they crash, they melt. It's the end of the world. You know, it could be something as small as she wanted to go into the pantry to get candy, and I said no, and she's on the floor, and it's the end of the world. And you know, you really need to treat, I feel, these kids and people with soft hands, with love. And it's just, their heart is broken. Their heart is broken over something to you might seem really small, but to them it's like, I really thought I was going to have that, and now I don't. So it's a very different approach from somebody who is like just fed up, and you need to help them just calm down, to somebody who's just fallen apart. So it's so handy for me to know what's going on with my family members, so I know how to treat them differently, even if the meltdown looks the same. It's not. And yeah, so it's just really about comforting them and letting them know that it will be okay. And then the way you manage this going forward is you educate them or sort of guide them to know to go into experiences with no expectations. It's like, I'm going into whatever it is for the experience. I don't know how it's going to turn out. Even if they hope it's going to be, you know, so wonderful, the perfect person's going to come, blah, blah, blah. Just try to coach them to just go in with no experience, no expectations. And then maybe you won't be so crushed if it doesn't turn out exactly as you thought it would. And then this one, 2212, is this one here. And 3955 is this one here. So this is the one, this is my husband's chart. So this can be the moodiest wave. So these are people who, when they're happy, they're great, they're wonderful, they're so fun to be around. And when they're not so happy, they're like really grumpy. Everybody feels it. It's just kind of like, can you please just take your grumpiness somewhere else? Because often we try to fix people like this. We're like, why are you so grumpy? Let's try to fix you. What's going on? You know, let's poke at you. And really, nobody can fix them. They can't even fix themselves. They don't know why, you know, suddenly they're so grumpy. They may be able to try to reason with it, but truthfully, it's just right now, this is how I am. So the best thing for them to do is to just take some time to their self, Go be creative, go do something. Those emotions will move out of them when they're ready, but they cannot snap out of it. You can't pressure them to start having a better mood. You can't argue with them to have a better mood. So it's just the way it is. And it is a gift, because when they're feeling that kind of moodiness, that's when the creative juices are flowing. So these are really creative people, but they just have to accept that sometimes they're going to feel social and sometimes they need to just be by themselves and do their own thing. And if you have somebody like this in your family, you just need to be able to respect that and just go, okay, we were going to do this, but now they just need time to themselves. So, things change and you adapt. So this is how we really treat each other, with respect, when you know each other's emotional system. And so just in sum, you can have multiple waves. So you can be somebody who has that high expectation and crash, and you can also have sweeping under the rug and explode. And you can also have that sometimes I'm happy and sometimes I need to be alone. So it's really important to know that this is not personal. This is how we're built. And when you know what you're dealing with yourself, with your family members, with your loved ones, you can really treat them with a lot more compassion for what they're going through. And it's also important to know that your wave is perfect for what you came here to do. So in my case, I have an open emotional system, so I can really feel everybody's emotions. That's perfect for somebody who wants to understand others and guide them. But I need self-care. I need to remove myself, empty out their emotions, protect myself so that I don't get sick and think, oh my goodness, I must have a mental illness. Why are my emotions going everywhere? Why when I'm in public do I feel anxiety? I'm feeling other people's stuff. And it's just, okay, that's their stuff. It's too much. I can walk away, or I can just say that's not mine and just really disengage from it. On the contrary, like my husband, who has that sort of moody wave, if he knows, look, I built this into me because I'm going to be a creative force. I'm going to create a lot of stuff in this lifetime. I need that moodiness. I need that range. I need to be able to be social and be by myself. So he chose that wave for himself. And likewise, my daughter chose her wave to be like probably this optimistic, beautiful, loving person who thinks everything is wonderful. And so she built that in to have that experience. And then my son, maybe he is trying to learn, how do I deal with frustration? How do I learn, what is going on? So every emotional system that you have, that your children have, is perfect. Nobody's a victim, even though, I see people talk about how hard it is to be a certain way or to be an empath or whatever. None of us are a victim. We chose this because it's perfect for us. It's just about learning, what do you have? How do you work with it with love and compassion for yourself and others? And I think if you, remember your life plan and you play to your strengths and stop feeling bad for not being like somebody else, and just know you're perfect and, uniquely you, to live life with grace and ease. And I'm just doing a play on words because those are my website and my Facebook page. So if you want to learn more, my website is yourlifeplan.ca. My email is Alahnnaa, ALAHNNAA 10 at yourlifeplan.ca. And I have a free Facebook group where I'm going to be posting this presentation, where you can come and chat and meet people who have similar designs to your kids, or ask questions. It's all free. I do education there. And I'm also putting out an e-magazine called Support Their Light on cluster.com, where right now I'm the only one writing, but I'm going to be bringing in other practitioners who serve parents and kids, so that we can all live life with more grace and ease. Thank you.